Hi guys, as part of today's lecture I would like to introduce to you the concept of a programmable system on chip. It's made by Cypress Semiconductors. These lecture series are part of the Cypress University Alliance. So as part of today's lecture we will understand what is a system on chip, then the fundamental concepts behind a programmable system on chip. Then we would understand the different types of PSoC devices and the differences between the three main PSoC devices, PSoC 3, PSoC 4 and PSoC 5. So before I move on to explaining what a PSoC is, let's first understand what is an embedded system. When we look at a conventional embedded system, the first few things that come to our mind, we have a central microcontroller or a microprocessor with different input-output devices. So we have input devices and output devices. Examples of input devices could be switches, buttons. Output devices could be LEDs, 7 segments, and then we have the conventional elements, which include memory, clock, power supply. Now, an embedded system is also used for monitoring and control purposes. So from the outside world, we need data through sensors, and to take the input data from sensors, we would need certain interface ICs or integrated circuits. You can also call them chips. For example, you would need ADCs, DACs. ADCs are analog to digital converters. DACs are digital to analog converters. You would have USB, UART, SPI, PPI, and the list goes on. So if we need to communicate with the outside world for the microcontroller, then you would need the interface ICs. So a typical embedded system has these components in as part of your application. So now with these definitions, examples of an embedded system could be your microwave oven controller, so microwave controller. Then you would have an air conditioning controller. Then you could have a washing machine controller. So basically there are many examples that we can look at. That's it. So let's ask ourselves a question. What if I take certain components of my embedded system, and if I put it onto the same chip, can we do that? The answer is yes. So let's take it case by case. If I take my interfacing ICs and my microcontroller and the memory and my clock, and I put it onto the same chip, that is called as a system on chip or an SoC. Now previously we had a distributed embedded system, which was each of these components were separate Now, from embedded systems, we've moved on to SoCs. So typically in an SoC, you would have your microcontroller, you would have your interfacing ICs, so you have ADCs, DACs, you have a UART, you have USB, you have the memory, you have clock, then you have a routing component, and there are many other components. This is typically a part of your SoC, or also called as a SoC. Now let's ask ourselves another question. What if my components, that is ADC, DAC, UART or USB and all other components, are programmable? So for example, I have an 8-bit ADC and now I want to operate the ADC in 10-bit mode. Can I do that? If I have my DAC with an output range of 0 to 1 volts, but now I want to operate with an output range of 0 to 4 volts, can I do that? The answer is yes. And to do that, we would have to use something called as a PSoC. PSoC stands for Programmable System on Chip. So it's a programmable SoC. It's been there for quite some time. A lot of people have been using it. A lot of students have also been using it. So you have not only configurable digital, but you also have configurable analog with memory and microcontroller, and as I said, it's all on a single chip. So that is the advantage of using a PSoC, and as part of this course we will learn how to explore the different aspects of PSoC. So when we look at a PSoC, we typically have 3 families of PSoC, but before that we should understand the architecture that a typical PSoC device has. There will be some differences from one family to another, so let us understand that. You have the clocking system, which takes care of the clock distribution, so you have different clock frequencies. Then you have the power management unit, which takes care of the different voltage levels. Then in certain PSoC devices you have a CAN interface core, which is your control area network. You have an I2C, you have a full speed USB. Then in your memory section you have the EPROMs, flash, SRAM. You also have a DMA section. Now the important aspect of the PSoC devices are the microcontroller cores. Now depending from one device to the other, for example a PSoC 5 has a Cortex M3, a PSoC 3 has an 8051, a PSoC 4 has a Cortex M0. I'll be discussing the differences in the next slide. Then as part of your PSoC devices, you have the analog subsystem, where you have programmable comparators. These are the comparators. You have programmable op-amps, you have DACs, you have voltage DACs, you have current DACs. Then you have a programmable ADC, you have programmable DACs. You have 2 types of ADCs, a delta sigma ADC and a successive approximation register ADC, or a SAR ADC. You can also make a digital filter block. Now this will vary from device to device. So please check what capabilities each device has. So please make sure you got that. And then in your PSoC device, you have the programmable routing, and then you have the general purpose I/O. Now these I/Os can be programmed as analog, digital. In digital also you have input, output, and bidirectional. So there is a lot of capabilities. We will understand each of these capabilities as we move forward. And the last thing that you have in a PSoC is the digital subsystem. Now this is like a programmable logic device. So it's like a mini FPGA on the SoC. You can model PWMs, UART, counters, all using these UDBs, and we will see this example as part of a future lab. So that said, let's look at the three different families of PSoC devices. So typically there are three devices: PSoC 3, PSoC 4, and PSoC 5. As part of this training program, we will look at the PSoC 4 device. Now if you look at the board here, this is your PSoC 4 board. We will see this in lab number 1. Now this is the PSoC 4 device. This is the PSoC 5 device, which acts as a USB programmer, but we will be focusing on this device as part of this training program. Now the differences here, the most important difference is the microcontroller core. A PSoC 3 has a single cycle 8051, a PSoC 4 has an ARM Cortex M0, the PSoC 5 has a 32-bit ARM Cortex M3. Both the PSoC 4s and PSoC 5s are 32-bit microcontrollers. Obviously there is some differences in the flash capabilities. The best place to look for these differences are the data sheets, which are available on the website of cypress.com. And then there are differences in the interfacing capabilities of each device. So your PSoC 3 can do a CAN protocol, has full speed USB. Your PSoC 4 has I2C, SPI, and UART. Your PSoC 5 has I2C, SPI, UART, and full speed USB. So depending on the need of your design, you can use these devices. Another important difference are the analog capabilities. The PSoC 3 device has one delta sigma ADC, which is programmable up to 20-bit, and it has 4 DACs. On the other hand, the PSoC 4 has just one SAR ADC, which is 12 bits. It can be programmed in 8-bit and in 10-bit mode selectively. Your PSoC 5 has both the delta sigma ADC and the SAR ADCs, so you can use both depending on your application, and it also has up to 4 DACs. So depending on your application, you need to choose which device you plan to go for. Okay, that said, if you want to learn how to make designs using a PSoC, you need to first install PSoC Creator. Now PSoC Creator can be downloaded from cypress.com. Now let's go ahead and look at where we can download PSoC Creator from. So first you have to download PSoC Creator. So go ahead and Google it. PSoC creator, and the first link that you get, please click on it. Now you could request a DVD, but the quickest way is to download it directly from the website. What the Cypress website might ask you to do is to log in, so you have to create an account for yourself. You can register with a new account. Since I already have an account, then I would log in. Now the PSoC software can be downloaded using the installer. You can go ahead and download the installer. Or if you don't want to use the installer, then you can escape this step by closing it and download the file without using the download manager. So you can click on this as well. Go ahead and download the software. It'll take some time depending on what your internet connection is. So after you've downloaded PSoC Creator, go ahead and double click to install the software. It will take you through a few steps before it will prompt you to select the location where you would like to install the Creator software. You can decide which type you want, whether you want to install the complete, custom, or typical. For most cases, you're okay doing the typical installation. Go ahead and accept. And it will take you through all the steps. When you can wait for a few minutes before it finishes. Now during the installation, it might ask you that you might have to install the latest edition of Internet Explorer or the latest edition of Microsoft .NET framework. So please check if your computer has those softwares. If you have all those softwares, then it will go through with the installation smoothly, as we are seeing here. Now once it's installed, you can go ahead and create a registration for yourself, or you can choose to do continue without contact information. Well, I am going to go ahead and put my information. And go ahead and finish. Now this would launch PSoC Creator. Now this might prompt you to go ahead and get the Kyle license registration. I'm going to show you how to do the license registration through the PSoC Creator software. Now go ahead and click on the help section. In that you have register and then you have Kyle. Now you click on get license via internet. And go ahead and fill in all this information that you need to fill in here. So let's say John PC. Jonathan Joshi. Now make sure that you enter the email address correctly, because this is where it will send your license information. And go ahead and click on submit. Now you need to copy the license information from your email, and then you have your license manager email here. Now this is your license key, so copy this, and then in your registration go ahead and paste it right here, and then click on add license, and it tells you until when this expires and you're good to go. So now your PSoC creator is ready, and we will see how to create the first project. I hope that this installation phase was clear. I shall see you in the next lecture. Thank you.